Welcome back to the On Therapy podcast with Simon Paul. I'm Simon Sanborn.
I'm Paul Jacobson.
Today we are going to do a podcast about kindness. You might have some friendship things sprinkled in there because Paul and I, in our last podcast, talked about friendship, especially with men and how important it is. But Paul, you had some things to share.
Yeah. Like every episode, sometimes we hit on topics that can really hit home to us or make us really think about things. And so sometimes these topics can be pretty triggering. And I just want to make you aware that some topics we discussed today could be triggering.
Perfect. All right, man. My allergies are terrible today because I didn't take my meds. So if I start coughing, I'll try to be aware of that. But yeah, definitely been one of those Iowa days for sure. I love the
Yeah.
state, but man, there's a lot of pollen
There is a lot of
and
pollen.
dust.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
right now.
Yep, for sure. All right. Did you have a place you wanted to take off from?
Yeah, I'm so glad, Simon, that we can have conversations throughout the week and be planning ahead about topics that we're going to discuss on the podcast. And of course, we're always open to having our listeners contact us. And if there's something they would love for us to talk about, we're all for it and want to hear it. But we've been talking about friends, and I love that we decide, okay, let's talk about kindness, because you know you and I in our friendship there's been all kinds of kindness, right? And we've gone through difficult things together, and it's nice to know that you always have my back. Um, and I think of some other friends that I have in my community, guys I went to high school with, um, who, man, our friendships, uh, yeah, we joke around sometimes and poke fun at each other and have fun, but it's all at the core is kindness. And for example, I think of one of my neighbors. I needed to go pick up some lumber at Menards, and he's got this great trailer. And I call him up and hey, and I hadn't even really talked to him for a couple months, but thought, hey, I'm wondering, Keith, can I borrow your trailer? I need to pick up some lumber at Menards. Absolutely. I come down and me picking up this trailer, which should be like a 5 or 10 minute job, ended up being like an hour chat of just catching up. And I really appreciated that. Okay, I'm so grateful that I can call my friend Keith, and it's like we just started off right where we left off last time. Started talking about this bike ride he's taken, and all the things that he's involved in retirement. And I'm so grateful for that kindness that he has, and to know I can just borrow his trailer.
Yeah. It's the simple things where people just kind of show up for us. I think that are so cool. Boy, you think he started talking about bike riding, and my first thought was like Ragbri, how much my ass hurt on that ride. Oh my God. Sorry. You were talking about such kind things, and I was like, God, I remember my ass hurting so bad.
All
Um,
right.
it's funny. I think just from the very beginning of talking about this subject, I was telling Jen last night. I said, sometimes I look into a little bit more what we're going to talk about, and sometimes I don't. Like the friendship one, I accessed Scott Galloway's book, Notes on Being a Man, for some of the friendship things he had talked about. But this one, she's like, "What do you think you're going to talk about?" And I was like, "You know what? I don't think I'm going to put a lot of energy into it until we do the podcast."
Mhm.
And she was like, "Oh, don't you want to have like an idea of kind of what you want to talk about?" Which is fair. And I was like, "Yeah, I see where you're coming from." I was like, "I just kind of want to see what just shows up when I'm doing it, just talking about kindness."
Right.
Well, of course, I could not think about it. So today I was at Half Price Books and I had a little bit of time. So I was looking around and I was thinking about Father's Day coming up. And I just saw my dad and my stepfather a couple weekends ago. And so I was like, oh, you know what? I saw a book on Tom Waits that made me think of my dad. So I was
Mhm.
like, oh, I should get that book for him. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, if I get a book for him, I should get a book for my stepdad too. And so I think kindness is this thing that once you think about it, opportunities show up or something along those lines. So I wasn't sitting around thinking about kindness and what that means to me or anything like that. I was just thinking about, well, we're gonna talk about kindness today. This will be a really interesting conversation to have with Paul. And I'm looking forward to his perspective. And ditto, by the way, for all the friendship stuff. Like, it's amazing to have a friend like you in my life. And so this kindness was so then I that happened with my dad and my stepdad, and that's kindness. I don't have anything to repay to these people necessarily, or I'm not required to.
Yeah.
But I feel like I want to do that,
Mhm.
and um, it kind of like it breeds itself in a way. And I even I wrote a note inside of the book to my dad, and I talked about um having an example like him as this really kind, thoughtful, loving person.
Right.
And that I get that now that I'm recognizing that's a big part of who I am. The same thing, because that was what was modeled for me. That's how I grew up.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And so I was just very grateful to kind of have that thought. And I think that kindness can be one of those things. Um, it's okay, this is where the conversation led. I'll just go this direction for a second. We can veer off, but I was thinking about kindness and doing things for other people and then being aware of why I'm thinking about doing those other things for other people, what is behind that.
Mm.
And I think we kind of talked about the idea that kindness matters when the intent maybe is what's behind it.
Right.
Are we doing something of free will that we just want to be ourselves and do for somebody? And it's just
Yeah.
being kind, I mean, even if it's just texting a friend, hope you're having a good day.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think you're necessarily doing anything other than reinforcing for yourself and your friend that you care about them and love them. That sounds okay to me. But this kindness feels like it's a once you tap into it, it's kind of like the friendship thing I talked about. Once you reach out and just make one connection with somebody and you get that connection, whoo, you're gonna feel good and you're gonna want to make more. I think kindness works the same way in a sense,
I
is
think so
that
too.
it builds over time. The more you do it, the more it just becomes part of who you are. And part of the conversation Jen and I had was I like being kind because it makes me feel really good too. And I
Mhm.
don't know if that's because it's an expression of love to somebody else and I'm wanting love back. I'm sure that's a part of it, but that's
Mm.
not my intent. My intent is just to share my love and for somebody else.
Yeah.
But that's a nice discussion of like what is, because Jen talked about talking to a therapist and them saying, like, "Oh, I like your earrings," and the therapist being like, "Well, why do you feel the need to tell
Oh.
me that I have pretty earrings on? What's
Oh.
behind that kind of thing?" And that made her question herself of like, and not necessarily in a good way at the time, of
Oh.
like, okay,
Oh.
what am I just being myself? Because she's like that. She just was like, hey, yeah, jeans look good on you, or I like those shoes, or if my kids have a haircut, you guys look great. I like your haircut. Like she just says shit like that. So I don't think she's like trying to do anything in particular other than just be kind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not necessarily to have her therapist like her more because I said something nice,
Right.
about her earrings. It's not that. It's that she just wants to be kind
Yeah.
and nice.
And I think we even talked about this a little bit ago of like overthinking this damn thing.
Hmm.
Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that might just be being therapists. I don't
Uh,
know. I don't know
yeah.
if that's what it is. Because we work with people pleasing with clients and with ourselves. And yes, there's an aspect. I remember my people pleasing being at its height when I had friends of friends that needed help. And so
Mhm.
they'd be like, hey, hey, what are you guys doing this weekend? Oh, we're going to re-roof so-and-so's house. Okay, you need an extra hand?
Mm.
Okay. Like they didn't really know me that well. And they were like, okay, sure. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there. Happy to help.
Oh,
And then showing up in the morning, ready to go. I had the tools and everything.
yeah.
People are still asleep. And
Wow.
people are like,
Yeah.
nobody let me
That's
know
being kind.
anything. And I was right there. And the whole time I was like, ooh, I want to help. I want to help. I want to be part of this group. That is a very different kind of kindness, at least for me with my examples of myself.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's being able to help people out. Certainly being kind, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, if it begins to impact your life, like if I'm spending every weekend running off to be with some group of people to overhelp or something, it impacts my relationships or something like that. I mean, that's obviously a signal of something too. But like I was telling you about last night, I was going to run and get Jen some wine. And
Hmm.
I was like, I kind of stopped myself and I was like, okay, do I want to go get her wine because I got nothing else happening and I'm cool to do it?
Hmm.
Or am I doing that because I'm trying to be a people pleaser?
Mm.
And I thought, okay, well, I like sitting on the porch and listening to the birds. I do it all the time. I can come back here when I get back from the grocery store
Huh?
and doesn't feel like a sacrifice to me. Yeah, I could do that. Like, what's the big deal?
Right.
I think that's what you were talking about, though. It depends on what the situation is.
Right. I'm with one of my clients, I'm reading a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And
Mm.
the point of the book is for men to be able to see that they are compromising themselves for everybody else's happiness,
Mm.
that they uh, really are doing it to the detriment of themselves. Maybe they're people pleasers, they're helping everybody in town, but really compromising their own happiness. And, you know, being kind, here we are talking like what's underneath the kindness, right?
Hmm.
Maybe being kind is you going and getting wine for Jen, and that you just want to be a good husband. You just want to be nice, and she wants it, and you can go get it, and you do it. There's not anything like super deep with this. You just love this woman, you want to do it,
You're right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that too, people, I know I definitely felt this way too, is I would get a lot of, I think now a false sense of connection maybe, by being too much like that, like losing myself and me trying to help so many people or always be the guy that people could rely on to, I mean, all my friends and family know that if they need to move, they call me. So that's like, that's
Yeah.
cool. I mean, I like that. I mean, I like that. Um, but I could see how that could become overwhelming and it almost becomes your identity is having to be this person all the time.
Right.
Where, and this is an extreme example, but one of the individuals we talked about in the first suicide podcast was a well known person in the community, well thought of, very helpful. Everybody came to him for things. Looking back now, we can say that he was probably lost himself in all of that. And
Mhm.
then came to a point where he didn't know who he was and what he was supposed to do and how he was supposed to be once things were shifting for him, where life got too much and he didn't know that it was all this, sacrifice on his own part that was causing the impact on him. I think it's really important to be conscious of why we're doing some of those things. And maybe
Mhm.
that's the difference. Maybe
Yeah,
that's the
right.
difference right there. Is kind. And if you're aware that you're just doing something to be cool and it doesn't really do anything for you or not for you, it's just something you can do. Like that's great. I think that's a wonderful thing to do. And I
Yeah.
do think that, I mean, yes, it does feel good to reach out to people and be kind and get kindness back, as you usually do. Um, but the intent is not to do, the intent is I was thinking of you. I love this person. I'm gonna text.
Hmm.
That's the thought. And I
Yeah,
think that's a really cool thing to do.
for sure. It is. And especially with our friends, right? Um, yeah, Simon, I'm thinking of a guy that he was in my wedding. His name's Matt. Very, very close high school friend, childhood friend. Um, and I'm kind of shifting gears here just quick, Simon, but uh the guy is super kind. Like he would do anything for anyone. Like he would be the guy that would jump, "Oh, you need help? roofing your house? Absolutely, I'll be there. He's that type of guy. And he's a huge prankster and jokester. Um, like I get lots of Instagram messages from him that are hilarious. So it's kind of interesting how um, we can be both, right? We can
Mm,
pranksters and jokesters and have fun and also be like super nice and kind to each other too, right? And there has to be like a line, right? That we,
yeah.
you know, cross. Like Matt would never do any like joke with me in a way that would hurt me.
Mm.
But, um, he might joke around about my golf game or something like that. I probably deserve it.
Well, and I was thinking too about when it comes to kindness, I wonder for men, and I think this is something that I kind of explored with myself too, is this idea of being kind is being loving. Well, that's how I think of it. I think of kind as being kind as
Yeah,
being loving to people. Okay, that's what I think.
yeah,
That's how I think of it. So I
I
got lots
agree.
of love for lots of people, and I like expressing that.
Mhm.
Um, I think that can be difficult for men because sometimes we have this, or well, I should say, I feel like society a lot of times puts things on us where, the minute we're being loving and caring with another man, that
Hmm.
then translates to something else.
Yeah.
Right. That then means like, you're not like being soft or anything like that, but like you are being loving to another man. And I think a lot of times our society, whether they align that with homosexuality or whatever, I think that's an aspect
Mm.
of, your dad hugs you and he says goodbye. Jesus, like
Yeah.
who are you raised by? You get a bunch of soft people, a bunch of pussies. That's a good one right there, right? Oh, you guys hug each other. You kiss your dad on the cheek. Like I think that's sometimes the perception that can keep men from being able to express the feelings that we're supposed to be expressing that we're often told we're not to. So it's like another area of that where it's like, yeah, to express this loving kindness, it stands out. It's different, but I think it might be a societal thing. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking of like if somebody's listening to this podcast for the first time, thinking about therapy, and we're talking about kindness,
Mm.
how do you feel like these two things kind of relate? That might be a hard question. So,
Yeah. I think it does. I think it really matters. When kindness becomes a way that we try to seek acceptance and
mm,
have our friends, our partners, we're like seeking for them to like us because we're being kind. Um, and then we're crossing like this boundary that
mm,
is inappropriate. Like I'm so invested in my friends or my partner's happiness that I will do whatever it takes to help them be happy. And I'll do it out of kindness.
mm,
And so some people might view you from the outside that, man, like that guy, he's the nicest guy in the world. Like no one uh, dislikes this guy. He's the best. Like he's
mm.
always doing everything for everybody. But um, you know, in our relationships, especially, sometimes our friendships too, um, we might be going way, way overboard in our kindness too.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, I'm not going to say this off of you doing too much because I think that's kind of just who you are, that kindness. What did it feel like for you? Because you got an award from our cohort at Mount Mercy
Oh my goodness.
for being that kind of person. And I don't think it's not just, oh, Paul steps up for people and helps here and there. The overall feeling from all of us about that and why we all voted for you was that
Mm.
that's just kind of a part of who you are, is being that kind, thoughtful person.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of a significant thing too, or at least for me, I would hope that it would be a good validation for you of who you are and how you present yourself to the world.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. That was very, very meaningful to me. Um, and a lot of people in our cohort could have gotten that award, I think. But you know, my purpose of trying to check in with people and just see how they were doing throughout, our classes and just trying to be a kind person to others was because of the acknowledgement of how hard that program is, and
Mm,
then to also be able to balance life in general and family and finances and just trying to do it all on top of this coursework was so tough. And
hmm
so I guess I wanted to be, a human in the room with everyone that I'm thinking of them and just trying to be kind. Yeah.
mm. Well, it's inspirational. I'll just put it that way. I mean, it made me just not consider like, oh, I need to be kinder. It was like, wow, he really is who he is, and he really just expresses that way of being, and it's really pleasant to be around.
Yeah.
Because you're right. I mean, I was so locked in and so full of anxiety that I don't know how often I was present for other people necessarily. I was not in the front of my mind at all. So I just really appreciate that genuineness of that, and
Right.
it has helped me not to be like, ooh, I want to be kind like Paul. It's more of like I like how Paul is as a
Mm,
person. And
thanks.
I liked that a lot. And so I was like, that's what I want to be me. I want to be myself and my genuine self. And I think as I keep figuring this shit out, I feel like that's who I am. I really am becoming who I want to be. And I think you were a good model for that. So I just want to offer you that. We'll just keep dumping praise on Paul.
Yeah, thanks.
Um,
That's really
so
sweet.
back to kindness. Uh, I don't know. I think that social aspect I think is part of it too, because I'll say this. I saw a reel, was it from a therapist who was doing like a men's group,
Mm.
and it showed these men kind of sitting in a circle and talking. It showed them kind of walking around in groups and talking. It showed them hugging and looking at each other kind of like in the eye, kind of, and expressing things to each other. And I thought, wow, that's really beautiful. Like that's really amazing thing to see.
Yeah.
I could also at the same time see somebody else looking at that and being like, these fucking guys just get together and hug and talk about their feelings and like, what the hell? You know, what I mean, that's not a prominent thought, but that's in my head. And I'm like, okay, I think that's what some men think about of like, what's this going to even look like? And I think therapy can be like that too, of like, Jesus, are we just going to talk about my mom and my dad and then we're going to figure these things out? Like, this sounds gross. You know, it's intimate. Like, I think that can be a similar aspect. So, like, if somebody's thinking about coming to therapy, it isn't always like that. I mean, it can be like that. I think it's awesome to be able to have those moments with people where it's opening up and thoughtful and caring and loving in the session, in a sense. Um, but I think I can see both of those viewpoints, and maybe that's my understanding of how a lot of men see things. But I could be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. I appreciate that, Simon. That um, you know, it makes me think, Simon, how s some men, they might view that this group of, oh, they're talking about their feelings and like that's the last thing I want to be a part of, that's not cool. And when you brought that up, it made me think of some guys that I know who, they might be the guys that would look at a group like that. It's like, that's the last thing I want. And it makes me think that these guys actually are very emotional guys. Like they're very passionate about things, or they might be really pissed about this or disappointed on that. Um, and they're really emotional guys, but they may not actually see that they're emotional.
Mm,
Um, they just might have some more uncomfortable feelings of anger and frustration and disappointment I and being dismissive of like guys that talk about their feelings, let's say.
hmm
But in the same breath, some of these guys that I can envision in my head, let's say there's two little boys throwing a baseball. Okay. Baseball goes way over the head of one of the the kids. I can envision one of these guys like tracking that ball down, getting it and grabbing it. Hey guys, here's the ball back and throws it right back. And like in that moment, like kindness
Mm.
was kind. That that's cool. And they may not even see that in one breath I was talking about this person or that person. They're a total jerk. I wouldn't want to spend time with them. You know, they might be kind of feeling their feelings in an uncomfortable way, and then switch just like that. Go grab that baseball and be like the nicest guy ever, throwing the ball back to the kids.
Hmm.
And I don't know, it just made me think how a lot of us have kindness. We can be kind, and we can be kind of brash sometimes too.
Yeah, and I think being aware of why those things are happening for us are so important. Like, yes, we can, any of us, well, let me go back to what you said earlier. I kind of connected with something I was thinking. I wonder, I feel like, and this is off of no scientific study on my own part, of, and I've said this before about some kind of biological aspect to this as well. Like, it's hard for me to imagine us as, I don't know, hunter-gatherers or something like that, where to survive with each other, we had to find ways to get along.
Hmm.
Again, I don't know if this is true or not, but it feels like that's a natural way of being that's how we have connection with people. That's how we form groups, we form tribes, is this connection and this kindness that we have for each other. And I wonder too if, sure, there are people that are going to be assholes. And I think all of us can be and probably have been. So those are momentary things in my mind. Those, overwhelm, something happened, pisses you off, you lose your cool, whatever. But I think if most of the time it's community and it's being kind, you're just going to keep joining with people, or people are going to want to be around you because
Yeah.
you're kind. I don't know if that's how that lands with you or not. But
Yeah.
again, so I talked about not thinking about kindness, and obviously I've put a lot of thought into some of this stuff. So,
You know, Simon, you bring up the word community. And our community is such an important place to display kindness, whether it's serving on some board or volunteering or, just helping a neighbor out. Um, uh, our community is a great place to show kindness.
mm, yeah, for sure. And if I think that if, say, you have this kind of mindset, where you don't know how to have connection with people. Um, Again, if you're feel like your place in the world, like, why the fuck would I be kind to somebody? Everybody's an asshole to me, so why would I be kind? The world sucks. It's
Yeah.
a shithole.
Mhm.
So why would
Right.
I be kind?
Mhm.
Like, I get that idea too.
Yeah.
And I definitely felt that. And so it's like, again, going back to the therapy thing, that's why we're here, is like, that's a great thing to explore because you're not right. I mean, I'm sorry, you're not wrong. The world is a shithole at times. Like, it can be really tough.
Yeah.
Can we begin to see it differently, understand it differently,
Mhm.
see it from different perspectives, whatever, however you want to say it? It's a wonderful thing about therapy is that it can help us discover some of those things. And if people are, again, back to the idea of if you're thinking about coming to therapy or you're uncertain, those are things you get to explore. They're not things that are bad or wrong about you. You get to explore, why do I think like this? What is causing me to, be pissed off at the world all the time? I have plenty of reasons. I have plenty of reasons why,
Yeah.
and they're all legit.
Right.
So how am I going to think about this differently? How am I going to see it differently? And so I think that's an aspect of therapy that's really, I want to say the word fun, but I don't want to say it like that because it's not always fun. But there's an aspect of discovery that's involved in exploration of yourself that I think is really, it's like you're Indiana Jones or something. You get to be like, go down the dark hallways and sometimes the big ball rolls shut and you're like, oh shit, what was that all about? Or I don't know. Like I just yeah, that's a pretty good analogy actually. But I think that can be what's difficult about the idea of going to therapy. Do I want to go down those holes? Uh, do I want to explore all this stuff? It could be painful. Yeah, you're right. It is painful and it is suffering, but it's a different kind of suffering than just going through life feeling the way you're feeling all the time without having some understanding about it. Because the understanding is the biggest piece to see why am I feeling this way? So you can see that it's not about you and that you're a bad person or a broken person. Maybe you had some things that influenced you to make you feel this way. Maybe understanding those things differently frees you somehow and you can see a shift, you know? I think that's the powerful tool of what therapy is. It doesn't have to be this arduous thing. It could be this wonderful exploration of what it is that makes up somebody.
Right. Yeah. And when think of kindness and trying to help someone, and then you think of therapy, I can envision a client who feels like they give and give and give. They're always there for everyone, and they're so kind, accepting, and feeling like, what am I getting out of this?
Mm,
I feel like I get shit on all the time. And I try to do everything for everybody around me, and people are just mean, right?
mm,
And really having to sit with kind of some depressive thoughts of, man, I feel like alone.
mm.
I I'm not getting like any recognition of all the kindness that I spread through the world. And I can see somebody going to therapy for this, right? It's like they're just down and feel alone. Uh,
Mm.
like they just aren't like getting any benefit from the constant kindness that they're giving to everybody else.
Yeah. And again, to explore that, what's that all about? Like
Right.
having some curiosity and some wonder about it instead of judgment about it. Being able to sit with somebody and be like, okay, fair enough. You're right. You have every reason to feel down. Let's figure this out. Let's do it together. So
Right.
somebody with a like I said before, I have a client who was like, "You can't be judgment free," and it was very fair. Yeah, they're absolutely right. I am a human being too, but we're trained to be that way. We're trained to be judgmental or non-judgmental in our viewpoints on people. We want to be open to people's experiences so that we can relate to them. You know, um, but I think there have been times. I mean, in the beginning of therapy, when I was just starting out.
Mhm.
Um, where I was doing the people pleasing kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I was called out by my supervisor about it, which is helpful.
Mm.
I was called out by a client as
Oh,
well, where
yeah.
I was trying to, instead of building rapport, I was trying to make it happen. Um, and so I remember saying to a client, oh man, this is a while ago. And I said, well, hey man, I really think you're awesome. I think you're doing a good job. Oh no, I said, I really think you're awesome. I think there's a lot of possibility here. And he's like, well, why do you think I'm awesome?
Mm.
And I was like, oh fuck. Yeah, we've only met twice. So how can I mean, uh, I mean, I guess I could have thought of something, and I'm sure I did, but that made me understand of like that wasn't really genuine from me. That was me, maybe people pleasing, maybe a little bit of wanting this to happen. So let's make this happen. But I was new and I was green, didn't know what I was doing yet, and that's okay. But those are good signals to me of like, okay, these are some areas we want to be aware of. And so
Right.
now I'm really intentional when I do it, and I know what I'm doing when I'm doing it. I know the thinking behind it of telling, and I'm more intentional and specific. I can tell you have really been working hard at seeing how the relationship with your mom may have affected, and I can just see the growth you've made by this and this, and that's really impressive that you're getting to these spaces. It's pretty awesome. So it's the same kind of thing, but it's more genuine. It's based off of factual data or feelings that are happening, in the session. But I think I think we both experience this. Our personalities, because we are kind, and we just it's kind of who we are in a way. And so I just have seen that kind of show up in sessions where I had a tough session, especially with men. And as they're leaving, I say, "Hey, man, I always offer this. If you feel comfortable with it, you can always say no, and there's no harm, no foul at all. But I just want to offer you a hug because we just went through a lot of tough stuff today."
Hmm.
And I'm telling you, more often than not, they're like, yes, and they're like going for it, like right away.
Yeah.
Especially men, especially
Hmm.
men. I don't do that with women very often, unless I've been with them a very long time. But with men, for sure, I offer that because I don't think it's offered very much. But
Hmm.
it's also me just genuinely saying, like, you just did hard shit. And
Hmm.
here we are standing here.
Yeah. Right.
Let's hug it out. That it just feels good for me too to validate their experience with
Right.
a hug, because I don't think men are hugged very often. I
Yeah.
mean, outside of our wives, or our kids around our waist or whatever. But we talked about this a little bit in the last episode of touch with men. You
Mhm.
know, all of my kids, man, they're fucking huggers, and I'm a huge hugger,
Yeah.
and can always my uh second to youngest is he just cannot wait to see me so he can hug me. And then when he's
That's
leaving, he's looking forward to hugging me because
yeah.
and I love hugging him too.
Yeah.
And I hug you when I see you. I hug Shane when I see him.
Yep.
I have a friend of mine who's having surgery on his heart on, I think, Monday. Pretty young guy in his early 40s. He's a little nervous. Um, I hugged him when I saw him and said, "Hey, man, I think this thing's going to be okay. We'll see how things go." Thinking about you, and hugged him. And he's not a huge hugger, but he was accepting of that pretty good. Well, I didn't give him an option. I just grabbed him and hugged him, but
Yeah.
he's a friend.
Good.
Um, so I think that, that kindness, doesn't have to, I think you said this, it doesn't have to be words.
Yeah.
It can be a hug
Yeah.
when you see somebody. If you're just happy to see them. You just want to hug them, or they're going through a tough time, and you don't need to say anything. You just hug somebody, and they just know, here I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And yeah, kindness certainly can be actions, right?
Mm,
Be a pat on the back, could be a quick text. Yeah, for
mm.
sure. Important.
And again, I try not to overthink this,
Yeah.
but I'm obviously overthinking it because it's like I I get so much from it. I just get so much from being kind, and I don't mean I get it from them. I get it from myself, from being like I love being kind because I feel like it's being kind and loving to me in a sense too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I've
Right.
talked about meditation before about how you visualize different people that you see them happy and at peace and having no suffering, and you swap that people out and they get closer and closer to you. And at the end of the meditation is you're doing the same visualization with yourself, seeing
Mm.
yourself joyful and without suffering and at peace. And so I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it feels very similar to me when I am doing
Right.
meditation and I'm loving myself in that way. It
Mhm.
feels the exact same way as when I'm being kind and loving towards somebody else.
Nice. And, Simon, I'm hearing you just having this desire to be kind to people, and that it just feels good for you to do, right? You know, a lot of times in our work, we talk about boundaries and people like
Hmm.
either being way too rigid with people, they're just not, it's like my way or the highway all the time. Um, or the other end of the spectrum is where we are really like wanting other people to feel the same way as us, or other people are trying to get us to feel the same way as them.
Mm.
And I think that's where kindness, you know, would be maybe not a healthy thing. Like, are we being kind to get somebody like to because somebody else wants us to feel the same way as them. So let's
Mm,
say, for example, someone's just really sad about something. So they they're just, oh man, they're really down on their luck. Things aren't going well. I'm really sad. And we decide, oh, you know what? We really, I need to be kind to this person because I want them to feel more gratefulness, let's say, like me.
mm,
Like I feel, if I was just nice to them, if I was just kind, then they're going to be more grateful like me.
mm,
So I'm going to be nice to them. Um, so, we're not, you talk about going and getting wine for Jen because you want to, right?
mhm,
What I'm talking about here is I want to do it for them to feel differently than what they do.
mm,
They're really sad. They're really alone. So I'm going to be kind so they feel more like me, you know? And that's not always a good thing because, there's tons of hurt in the world. And so do we go and be kind to everybody around us because there's so much pain? And then suddenly we're like an empty bucket. We don't have
mm.
anything. We've just given everything to everybody else. Uh, and yeah, maybe they think nice things about us. Oh, that guy, he's so nice, right? But maybe we're exhausted. Maybe
Mm.
we're like tapped out. Maybe we just feel like, man, like I'm not getting anything in return.
Yeah, how does that align with you with like people pleasing? Does it seem similar? Is it different?
I think it's a type of people pleasing.
Okay.
Yeah, where I mean, people pleasing is a good thing.
Hmm.
We're doing it out of the goodness of our heart, and it's not like taxing.
Mm,
It's not like costing us uh, too much of who we are. Like it's actually like a value to us to be kind.
mm,
Right? So people pleasing can be like we're compromising ourselves for
mm.
trying to get somebody to feel differently than they do.
That's great. That's a great definition of it. Yeah.
Good.
And I can see that in myself in the past of wanting people to see me this way
Hmm.
and feel this way about me
Hmm.
and trying, for lack of a better word, too hard to do so. And I
Hmm.
feel like at this point, with all the therapy, and all the classes, that was a form of people pleasing because I wasn't happy with who I was.
Uh,
I mean, that's what it showed up for me is I was not happy with who I was as a person, thought something was wrong with me. Um, why can't I show up the way I need to show up for people? I do show up sometimes. I don't always show up. Oh God, they think bad about me. I better overdo it and make up for that thing I messed up on, and do extra or something. And all of that external kind of stuff was kind of good signals to me that there was things that needed to happen inside of me
yeah. Yeah.
to
And
get to a point because it
good
affects. Say again, sorry.
want to be seen as a good guy.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, and back to that book that you were studying. I mean, so is that an aspect of what you're talking about in some senses?
Um, so this book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, I forgot the author's name off the top of my head. Um, the book actually, in my opinion, goes way too far of being very rigid that, okay, I'm not going to be nice anymore. I'm drawing the line. And I'm not going to let people uh, kind of push me around. I'm gonna quit like serving everybody now. And to me, it's too extreme. It's like you're cutting like everybody out of your life,
Mm.
especially a partner, because you're just done.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so that was my take. So it really villainizes being nice. Uh, and
Mm.
you know. maybe maybe some people need a little bit more of that of okay, you need to have better boundaries. Um, but thought the book personally goes too far. So
Okay.
that's a good discussion. The client
Hmm.
that we're working through it is um, okay, what points of this, like we don't have to accept 100% of a book. We
Right.
disagree, right? And so what parts of this for the client do you agree with? What parts don't you? And
Hmm.
let's go with this. And, an important thing for therapists is that it's not about us,
Hmm.
right? It's not like how I view the book. This client wanted to go through this book with me, and so I'm going with it. And it's not about how I view the book,
Right.
right? It's what
Mm.
they want out of the book.
Good
So,
point.
so let's, you know, it's really important unless they ask me not to share how I feel about it, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but to ask, have them work through what they want out of the book, like what they
Hmm.
want to get out of it. And this guy, this client is super, super nice guy, and feels like he needs a little bit more of this in his life, but not all the way to the full, you know. I
Right.
don't need to be 100% of this book, but I can get
Yeah.
out of
Well,
it.
and I think too, our perceptions of what an asshole looks like too, I think is different. Is me saying no to something then mean I'm an asshole? Or is it just a boundary?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And
You
we really should talk about this, Simon, because having a boundary to a nice guy, somebody who's super kind, you might feel like you are an asshole. You're, let's say, for example, um, I don't know. Let's say this is maybe a bit of an extreme one,
know?
uh, but like in 2 hours, I got to leave for a wedding. Okay. My neighbor's mower just died on him. And he says, Paul, I really need your help right now. I need to get this mower in my truck. I need you to help me. We need to go down to the mechanic. And I need your help pulling this thing out of the back of my truck at the mechanic's office. I got to get this done. I need my lawn mowed in like the next hour and a half. I got family coming. Can you do that for me? It's like, well, I got to leave for a wedding in 2 hours. Um, no, I can't. We got to have a boundary here. It's like, nope, I can't do that. I'm really sorry. I see you're in a predicament, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to help you take your mower to the mechanic. I'm sorry. Maybe we can call John down the street. Um, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able to do it today.
Yeah. Or I can help you get in the back of your truck, but that's as far as I can go.
Yeah. Right. And like for me, I might sit with that frickin' for days.
Mm.
Like, man, I hope he doesn't think I was a dick. God, I was probably a total asshole and not helping my neighbor. Like he was in a bind and he really needed my help. But also I need to get ready for this wedding, right? But man, that sucked. I wish I could have helped him out.
Hmm.
So boundaries can be really hard to do because we care so much sometimes of what other people think. Um,
And I think like honest expressions and talking about shit matters too. Like, hey man, I'm really sorry. I could tell, like you said, I mean, you're in a predicament and
mm,
I might be able to help you do this or that, but I don't have time. I have to leave for a wedding. I'm really sorry. And then you do your thing, and the next couple of days you see him, and you're like, "Hey, how'd that go with the mower? Sorry, I couldn't help you that day. I had things happen, and how did it work out?" Like, you can mitigate
absolutely.
these. You can mitigate these things. You know what I mean? We can still
Yeah.
come, even if we came across as an asshole. Oh my God, does he think I was an asshole? If we're overthinking it, we could just go fucking find out. Like, just go, "Hey, man, I'm really sorry
Yeah.
about yesterday."
Yeah.
And just talk about it and get it out there. But I think maybe that's an aspect too of being vulnerable with people where it's hard, where you're like, you feel bad coming back and saying, "I'm sorry I couldn't help you, but you are my neighbor. I have to see you all the time. I want
Right.
to make sure this relationship, is okay." I think that can be hard.
Right. And Simon, too, let's say, in this example, um, a neighbor, he's kind of dumbfounded that I'm saying no.
Mm,
Like, whoa, this isn't the Paul I know. What? What? You can't help me? It's like, bud, I'm sorry. I got a wedding. I got to get ready, leave within 45 minutes so I can get to this wedding that's 2 hours. Oh, no problem. Go to your wedding. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should probably, here I am just panicking because I have family coming over and my uncle, he's gonna look at my yard and he's gonna see his half mowed and like I can't have that happen. No, go have fun at your wedding. Have a great
mhm,
time. You know, Suddenly a reframe can happen
mm,
where all of a sudden his panic is different,
yeah.
not demanding that I help him because all of a sudden he gets it. So just a
Mhm.
little communication can go a long way sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think too, I think I've been more bummed or like, somebody's like waving you down the side of the road, or, more often I've had a lot of people come up to me like when I'm getting gas to see if I have jumper cables,
Oh
things
yeah.
like that.
Right.
And I've had to say no to that once. And I felt really bad about it because I was late, or I
Mm,
was thought I was going to be late. And so I was like, oh, and again, that's me and my ADHD where I'm like, okay, we could go down a lot of different paths before we
yeah.
get to where we really need to be. Is this going to work time wise to do this? And it's still a work in progress for sure. Because I'm like, oh, I could probably squeeze 10 minutes to see if I could help. It usually ends up being longer. And so I have to kind of be like, okay, yeah, I can't do it. Hey man, I'm so sorry. Getting my gas tag. I have to go. I don't have time. I'm really sorry. I can't help you out. Those are the ones that kind of stick with me sometimes where I'm like, oh God, could I have helped somebody out in a really tough situation? There's complete strangers and I'm thinking about them and if they're okay. Those are the kind of ones that stand out for me too, of like my not having opportunities to help people. But that's when I don't think that's necessarily people pleasing, but like that's when I kind of feel that part of me who's wanting to be kind, where there's a little bit of a struggle, where
Right.
it's like, hey man, let's let's show up for this person. They're in trouble or whatever, like we should do this thing. And then there's another part of me like, yeah, but I have commitments to people that I need to be with. So I can't,
Right.
it's just,
Right.
it's an unfair exchange for sure, but it's just reality. And I think maybe for me, it was getting okay with that. Like me saying no isn't the end of the world. There's other people in the gas station to ask, they'll find somebody. But I think, those are the ones that kind of bug me sometimes where it's like, oh God, it goes against my nature to help people. And I'm like, it's starting to come with this reality side of like, yeah, but we have other stuff we got to do. And we're not a bad person because we can't stop
Right.
and jump somebody's car.
Yep. And when we do have a boundary like that, it's like, actually, no, I'm not able to help you with this one, or whatever it might be. Um, it it can be kind of hard sometimes because people can push back.
Mm,
People can push back when, especially if you're not being yourself, or what they think of that you are. So, for example, the neighbor wanting me to help with his mower, if I say, "Oh man, I can't help you today," they might, "Paul, what are you talking about? I need you like right now. I've done so much for you. Why can't you help me?" They might like have some pushback
mm.
um my boundary that I just can't help today. Right? So sometimes when we create a boundary like that with people, you can kind of expect that you're gonna get some pushback.
Yeah. And I think that understanding is super important too, so that we realize that, oh, this is just a boundary. And this is important to me, this boundary. I'm trying to keep track of time or show up on time or be there for
Yeah.
my spouse, whatever. This isn't about me being an asshole. I am being thoughtful.
Yeah. And I want to also talk on this, Simon, how hard it is to be able to set boundaries.
Mm,
We are kind people and we are people pleasers, how hard it is to sit with some of the discomfort of setting a boundary. So I share Tammy and I were out for a walk today, and a guy that I was in the Lions Club with lives across town, and um, I was talking to him, and he was talking about how this afternoon he's got just a big job, um, and that one of his longtime friends had passed away, and he had all this hay that the family was going to donate to this horse barn that does some charity work at the horse barn. And so he had to go move with a couple other guys a bunch of bales of hay to this horse barn. And he goes, yeah, I don't know if you're doing anything this afternoon, but if you want to help, that would be, really a good thing. And I just had to share because we have this podcast. I shared with him, yeah, man, I'd really like to help, but I'm just not able to today. He goes, oh, yeah, no problem. Well, you're just walking down the street, and, and I ask you if you could help, but it's no problem at all. It's like, I'm having to sit with, actually, that's something I would have really enjoyed doing. I would
Mm.
have enjoyed going and helping. I would have enjoyed being with the guys, and like this is a good cause. This hay going to this horse barn that does a lot of like mental health things for our community. It would have been a really cool thing. And so having to sit with, God, I could have called Simon and said, "Hey, can we meet like 2 hours later? I'm gonna go help this guy." But then, I'm really kind of being kind for lots of different reasons, and I probably just needed to create a boundary. It's like, yeah, I can't help today.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And that's, I mean, I think a podcast on boundaries would be awesome. Because, like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? Like, I think that would be a really good discussion because I think that involves everything we've talked about almost up to this point. Boundaries when it comes to kindness or friendships or parenting. Um, Boundaries are so important. I mean, that's if there's one thing I regret, I think it's a little bit of regret, is that I understood that more. And again, more for me. Like if I had set some of those boundaries for myself, then I probably would have had, well, different relationships. I think people might see me a different way. And I can still be the helpful, thoughtful guy, but
Yeah.
I can also know that I have limits. And I think it's important for friends and people that we're in relationships with that they know that too. Yeah, Sai's a good guy. He's
Mhm.
willing to help when he can. And he couldn't. Okay. I know that he's going to help when he can. So he
Yeah.
can't do it this time. Cool. Well, I get it. This is the first time you've said no. Surprising or something. Um, but I think I spent so much, I think, of my young adulthood into my 30s, probably overextending myself because I was wanting so much acceptance from others that I didn't have healthy boundaries at the time because I
Right.
didn't feel good about who I was,
Right.
and that's again that discovery, going to therapy and discovering that about myself was a great thing. Like it was such a great thing to figure out. And it was difficult to figure out, and it took time to figure out, but I'm so glad at 55 that I can understand that now. Yes, I wish I had had it a lot sooner. With that being said, I'm so happy now that I have it too,
Right.
because it fulfills so much for me of just knowing I'm a good person, and then knowing that I have my limits, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, and Simon, look at us as, retired educators,
Mm,
right? I mean, as educators, we're trained to do so much for everybody.
mm.
I mean, it's almost as if we're not enough. We have to do more and more and more for everybody around us.
Because there's always a need for more.
Right. And it's why you and I were good educators, because we wanted to serve, right?
Yeah.
But to be able to manage the stress of being an educator, you have to have good boundaries and be able to say no sometimes,
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
realize I don't have to go save the world. I don't have to make
Oh,
everybody better. you know. Uh,
Ooh, I think that's what burnout's all about.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah,
that's what burnout is about. There's never enough time. There's never enough
never,
support.
never.
I mean, it feels at times like an impossible task.
Yes, it is.
And so that's really tough. I mean, that's really, really tough to be in that position. I mean, I don't know. I feel the same way about people in the military. You know, if we're going to send them off the war, when they come back here, they should, I know they volunteered, but they should get a house and a car and they should
Yeah,
get their life fucking set up for them because they put themselves in harm's way, so to speak.
yeah,
And or literally put themselves in harm's way. I feel it's the same way for teachers. Like you are asking these people to educate the next generations of people that are coming into this world.
yeah,
If you want them to do it successfully, they need to have everything they possibly can at their resources as resources for them to use so they can accomplish the goal that we all want them to have, which is to develop the best kids we can and educate them. And so I feel like they should be given a ton. Like there should be a limitless amount of money for teachers. You know, I feel like anybody in service. I think like there should be unlimited resources for police officers and firefighters and nurses. And I just think there's so many things in our society that are so big that we ask human beings to do that it's like, holy cow, do we really have a good conceptualization of what we're asking these people to do and accomplish and still be human beings and have families and all the other stuff that goes along with it?
right. Yeah.
All right. Well, Paul, we are getting there close on time. I want to be conscious of that for both of our sakes. What a great discussion today. So powerful. All these discussions really, I sit with them a lot afterwards. I usually spend the weekend thinking about our conversations because I just get so much from them. I so appreciate your genuineness and your open and honest approach to these things too, because it allows so much insight, you know, to have these kind of discussions together to kind of, and I really hope, you know, for those that are listening that, you know, you get that we're still figuring this shit out too.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's, you know, you hear this, oh, it's just a journey. And it is. It is a journey. It is a grand adventure, however you want to put it, to be a human being and to understand some of the stuff, or at least try to wrap your head around it.
Right.
Like it's tough. It's a difficult task to do.
Yeah.
But there's such a wonderful space past the suffering. There's such a wonderful space past the struggle that it is to be human. And it's never fucking easy. That's the whole point. It's never easy. Can we
No,
find a different way to move through the world so we feel better about who we are? I think is the goal of therapy, at least as far as I'm concerned, figuring these things out.
sure.
And it's not, you know, when I say to clients, you know, well, holy shit, no wonder you struggle with negative thoughts and if you're a smart person or not, because you were raised to think that way about it.
Mhm.
You
Right.
know, I often say that to clients like, boy, I'm not surprised of what you're experiencing off of the story you just told me. That was pretty shocking, you
Hmm.
know, and like them being able to see that, just that little glimpse
Yeah.
is
For
like,
somebody
oh
else.
shit, okay,
Mhm.
huh, what's that about? You know, and get that curious, wondering kind of way of thinking to get started to look into these things without that judgmental lens, you know. It's just such a wonderful thing to be part of. I just am so grateful for it every day. I mean, I saw a lot of people in my family a couple weekends ago, and they were asking me about therapy and what I was doing, and I was like, it's the fucking greatest thing I've ever done with my life. I feel so fulfilled doing it. And that again, that's all for me. I love being of service. Like you said about us being educators. I love helping.
Mhm.
I love guiding people to heal. Like all those things are just I'm discovering are such a fundamental part of who I am, and I'm so happy with that. I mean, it makes me very happy to feel that grateful to be working with people like we do in therapy.
Right. And we're fortunate too, Simon, to be two guys in our 50s. This much passion for our,
Hmm.
Like we're really lucky in that sense. Um, 'Cause not everybody does have that. We're fortunate.
We are. We're fortunate. And I do think that us having that perspective of being fortunate and knowing what it took to get to this space, this didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
This was a long process, 55 years, right? Um, Therapy, whatever it is that shows up that gets us to a space where we can feel this grateful for where we're at. I do think it's possible for everybody. And I don't
Hmm.
think it's always just therapy.
Hmm.
You can find an awesome self-help book and that kicks your ass and it reshifts your thinking. And it's like, oh, good for you. That's awesome. I just want people to know that there's a possibility to get past that suffering. And there's people available to be able to walk through that fire with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially to be able, our friends, our family, all so important. And to be able to have conversations with them can be life-changing. Uh,
Mm,
and at the same time, to be able to meet with a therapist that you don't know them at all, and to be able to sit with someone who really has no outside of the therapy room, they have no influence on your life. You
mm.
don't have to like live with them. You don't have to associate on vacation with them or anything. They're, you just have them for that hour a week or every other week or whatever it is. Um, that relationship can just be so refreshing and hard sometimes, but it can just be such a great connection.
Yeah. And this is my pie in the sky, rose-colored glasses, but there's so much beauty in it. There's so much, for me, there's a lot of awe in seeing people figure
Mhm.
things out and make connections and kind of come to understanding that shifts their perception of themselves. I
Yeah.
just think yeah, it's magical. I think it's amazing. And I don't think I'm doing that. I think I'm just getting a go along for the ride. Like it's just, I don't know. It's pretty fantastic. Well,
Well,
we'll wrap this up, Paul. If you're in crisis and things are happening for you and you're in a tough spot, you need emergency services, 911 is so important. If you're having crisis mental health wise and feeling suicidal, 988 is the best number to go to. If you feel like there's a space for you to see a therapist, um, well, first I want to put a shout out to the Olson Clinic, which is in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. It's part of the Mount Mercy Marriage and Family Therapy Program. It's a clinic that allows new clinicians to practice therapy under the guidance of professionals, professors, incredible professors. And they offer a really awesome sliding scale for getting therapy. And I think it's a wonderful resource for people if they're in the Cedar Rapids area to access that. And if you're looking for a therapist and you're not in Iowa, we don't hold anything against you for not living in Iowa, even though we think it's the most awesome state. Um, Therapist.com is a great resource for finding a therapist. You can really look into what their mode of or their model of therapy is, how they approach therapy, what they focus on. You can really kind of dig in and see if there's somebody that fits you. And you can usually make a phone call and talk with somebody. And if you feel like it fits, they fit. If they don't, then you can find somebody else. It's kind of a nice spot. Therapist.com also can align people with therapists as well. But I just want to offer that to everybody, and I just really appreciate everybody taking the time today to listen. It means a lot to us. I've got a lot of really good feedback about it, which is awesome. That people are finding it beneficial, and that makes me happy. Uh, and I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to us today. So I really appreciate it. And Paul, just fucking love you to pieces, man. You're the best. I love spending time with you.
Yeah.
Like I told you today, I was like so excited to see you because I was like, I haven't talked to you. Like we haven't done the podcast for a
Oh,
little bit. We've
yep.
had too much stuff happening, and I was like so looking forward to spending time with you today. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome to see you, Simon. We'll talk soon.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a good rest of your weekend, month, day, whatever it is, and we appreciate your time.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Thanks.
Adios.